Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So you'll need to bear with me, folks, while we just get a few things set up. Why is the quality there so low? There we go. All right, folks. So welcome back to another Firestorm Studios live stream. My name is Pat, and today we are going to be continuing with our A to Z of sculpting creatures inside a Zbrush. And today we are on the letter Y, so we're going to be doing a yak. Quite unimaginative, I know, but I felt as though originally we were going to be doing a yellow-bellied sea snake, but I felt it was a bit too close to the Toby Kadachi that we did only a few weeks ago. So I decided that we might switch things up a little bit and go for a yak. And I thought, because everyone seems to love them, we might kind of embrace the derpiness of the block out and kind of create a yak that's kind of in a similar vein, maybe kind of stylize it as we go a little bit. I have no idea if this is going to work. This is literally an idea I came up with about 3 hours ago today. I thought, oh, wait a minute, we could do that. We could actually just follow the derpiness of the creature. Now, I do have a reference image here that I'm going to bring in. Bear with me. I don't know why, however, on the live stream here that it hasn't refreshed the chat properly. Hold on, let me see if this will clear it off. Okay, we still have the old live chat from Paige's previous stream, and I hope that a lot of you were able to kind of tune in and check that out. But all right, let me just bring in this other reference image here. And I got this one from Pixabay, which, as I said, is where I get most of the reference images because they are royalty free. So I think I'm going to get rid of this one and I'm going to use this guy instead. Quite big, but we'll just move it into the corner. And we'll kind of use this as our shape. All right, let's see here. What are we doing? Nobody coming through on chat, blah, blah, blah. All right. Okay, folks, so let me know how you're all getting on this afternoon. It's still very hot in the UK, so still suffering a little bit, but we make do. We make do. All right, so for the yak, which is just a mountain bovine, very similar to the Highland, to the Highland cattle or Highland coos that we have here in Scotland. And they're also found in other places, but I think they're more traditionally kind of linked with Scotland. So let me think, how do I want to start this guy? Do we want to go full body? Do we want to go with just the head? I think we'll start with just the head for the time being. And if we have time, we'll add in the body as well. So I quite like this. I thought this would be a nice challenge to just aim for the derpiness. Aim for the derpiness. Embrace it. So I do have a fair amount of reference here. So, and again, this is just so that you know what a yak is. We're not necessarily going to be using this as our final shape. So let me see here. So I want to pull the main part of the head out. And I think I'm going to push this in here for where the eyes are going to go. I'm going to add in a capsule on the top to delete my subdivision surfaces there. There we go, bring that in, plump that down. And again, we are just going for something a bit derpier. So let's immediately get those eyes in and go to macro, append eyes, and get those into place. And I think for this kind of top section here, if I bring this image down, they do have quite long snouts, but there's this really cool part at the top where the horns are going to come out of that I want to address, and then the ears kind of pop down below it. So I think what I'll do with this is I'm going to reshape it a bit, just add a bit more of a stylization to the head. And I think for here, I'm going to mask this out and just subdivide that once so that I can pull it a bit more shape. Got quite big heads. And I really want to. I've got this great reference image of a giant. It's more of a bull, but it's like a giant bovine kind of in the mountains, and I quite like that vibe. I think I might go for something like that, but a bit cuter. Um, if I'd thought of this idea prior to this, prior to today, I probably would have reached out to an artist to try and get permission to use one of their reference images, or one of their illustrations as an image, but we're not going to do that today. We are just going to try and make it up as we go along. A little bit more exploration today, folks, than we normally have. So I'm going to append a sphere again. I'm going to create the ear in a similar way that we did to the wolf from the Sword and the Stone. I'm going to delete half of this and just reshape that to give ourselves that nice scallop kind of look to it. There we go. And we will rotate that round. We'll grab our move brush. Oh, not extrude, don't want that. And just start to reshape this. Like so. Subdivide it if we have to. There we go. And I'm just going to jump in here and add a little bit of dynamic subdiv. Just to add a bit of thickness. Deliberately going for kind of thicker shapes here. That looks like that. Oh, it's a little bit far forward. Generally, you don't find that people's ears protrude from their eyes. Blake9264. Oh, cool. Yak. A yak indeed. Yes. But we're kind of stylizing our yak a little bit. So we are derpifying it, as what I'm going to call it. I want the ears. It looks like the ears kind of stick down quite a bit. Starting to looks like a sheep at the moment, but we'll get around that. I'm going to apply this and mirror it across. And on the top of the head here, I'm going to mask out and then reshape the top. Something for the horns to protrude from. And let's pop in. I think what I'll do for this is I'm going to use the clay tubes brush. Not clay tubes, sorry. Clay, it is the clay tube, but the clay tube snap. And I'm going to give my character a nice kind of huge brow, like so. And do a little bit of adjustment here. The jaw is too wide at the back. I'm going to thin that down a bit. Take the ears and let's scale them down a wee bit more. Append in. You know what? Let's append a cube. We'll turn that into an into a Q cube. And this is going to act as the first part will be our neck, and then the second part is going to be the overall body. It's kind of related. I did see that. Yes, I remember seeing that in the online where not that long ago. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. This is the thing, right? I'm sorry. I know it was a terrible thing to happen, and I hope that the man is okay. But if you are going to get close to a wild animal, then you have to. And I'm sorry. I know that they were at a safe distance, but I'm telling you now, the only safe distance from an animal like a bison is a telephoto lens. Okay, you don't want to test these animals. Okay, for all we know, if they've got a young calf nearby, then they are not going to mess about. So let's do a delete here so that I can bring this back, and I'm going to make it. You know what? Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make a new one. So I'm going to append another Q cube, like so. Yeah, and I know that it might sound really insensitive. I'm not saying people deserve to be hit by bison, but you know, maybe I am. No, in all seriousness, I think when things like that happen in these national parks, these poor animals kind of have to put up with a lot of interference from people. And I don't think that humans are not exactly known for their boundaries. Let's put it that way. So, and I am deliberately making this very cubistic. There you go. There's a new word for you. I want this guy to look like a bit of a chud. So I'm going to add in a. Also, folks, I am just making this up as I go along. So if it turns out rubbish, you'll know why. Yak. Yak indeed. Yakety yak. Don't talk back. So let's just. Hey, why are you not working? Why is symmetry not on? There we go. Let's turn that adaptive skin option down to just polygons. Give ourselves something a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to turn off transparent here. And I'm just going to tweak some of these shapes. I'm going to make another hue sphere. I think a lot of people don't get nervous around them because they're herbivores. 100%. 100%. I think people think that they're not going to get hurt because they go, oh, it's just a giant cow. It's like, no, it's an incredibly aggressive animal. And if, like I said, if you happen to go near an animal like that when it has a calf, then yeah, hell mend you. So we're going to do for the horns, I think we'll do another Z-sphere. And just pop that in. So let's grab that. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Append Z-sphere. Let's see where that's put. That one. There we go. It's put it pretty much where I need it to be, which is right up by the head. I'm just going to scale it down and turn on symmetry, draw out the horns, move them into position. Come on, Zbrush, stop playing silly buggers. There we go. Okay. And we'll give ourselves a little bit of a floor, a little ground plane. We're going to do a yak in the snow. And if anyone can guess why we're doing a yak in the snow, put it in the chat and guess. See if you can guess why I'm putting a ground plane in like this. What possible reason might there be? Oh, that's way too high. So let's lower that down. There we go. And now we'll just do a bit of surface noise on this. You can use surface noise to break up a model, like so. And then just hit OK, and then hit apply. And if you've got a low resolution mesh for 3D printing, that's actually a good answer. It's actually so I don't have to sculpt its feet. So what we will now do is we take the legs, drop them down there. I've got all these different parts. We're going to take we can take the head, not the eyes. We'll move that down as well. So our hooves hard to sculpt. They're not hard to sculpt. It's just they're unimportant to the kind of image I'm wanting to create. But I would have to add them in if you could see them. If we have time later, then yeah, we could maybe add them in, maybe kind of stylize them a bit. But at the moment, this gives me a bit of an out. Okay. However, it does actually make a good point about 3D printing because it will actually make it easier. So if this creature or character is, say we do actually create the hooves, having it on this base, if you were to 3D print it, is going to give you some stability. And areas like the underside of the legs and stuff could become quite fragile during printing, depending on if you're using resin or FDM. Okay, so I'm going to take the head here and the ears, and I think we'll do the neck as well. Just merge these down. Then we'll do the body. Oh, wait a minute, did I? Oh no, that's fine. Okay, so merge that down. Well, okay. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to Dynamesh that together. Delete lower, Dynamesh. Too high, so let's drop that down to around about 64. Still too high, so we're going to go to 32. And that's still too much, so let's go to 16. There we go. Okay, so I now know that the kind of the optimal shape or size for my Dynamesh for this character is going to be 16 in order to keep it fairly light. We'll do the same here with the head. It's going to give us too little or too much. We could probably do a bit more, so we'll do 32. Not bad, not bad, not bad. But let's do auto groups. And I think what we'll do with the ears is I think I'm going to separate them, I think, for the time being. Jumping the gun a little bit there, and then we'll Dynamesh the head together. Grab the trim dynamic, and now we can start shaping out our body. And we're going to take the head and merge that down as well. There we go. And redo our Dynamesh. Bring it all together into one. We'll do a quick smooth over the face here. And I want to add a bit more of a shape to the neck. And for the nose, right, I do have a close up here of, where is it? There we go. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I could have made a Highland cow, I would have. I should have thought of that actually for either C or for H, but hey, we are where we are, folks. I'm going to reshape the nose a bit here. It's a bit too pointy, and flatten that out. So what I think I might do is I might play around with some of the dynamics. We were playing around with some of the dynamic features in ZBrush the other day, and it made me think, yeah, we don't use this enough, but it might actually be quite cool to showcase it. So that's what we're going to do. Just a little bit, nothing major. So we're going to do it for the leg area here, or all this fur that's kind of hanging down. So first thing I'm going to do is clean up the mesh a bit here. And we're just going to mask out underneath the belly a bit. And again, this may or may not work. We don't know, but we're going to save it before we do anything. Just in case. Just in case. So we'll get this saved. Yak number 1. And with that mask, I'm going to go up to Dynamics. I'm going to turn on Unmasked. And then hit Collision Volume. And then under here, I'm just going to leave, I think, everything else at default. And let's see what we get. Let's see what happens. Not bad. Okay. So if I go back into dynamics and let's do, let me see here. What do we want to do? Let's take the firmness down to 1. Try again. Not really doing what I wanted. So I'm going to go back in and I think I will take my masking tool here, take my alpha brush, and under here, I'm going to do something like this. Just stipple it. You know what? Rather than using the standard freehand stroke, let's use a drag stroke. And then that way, we can do something like this. Now let's try it. Actually, let's do a little bit more. Break that up a bit more. And then we'll try the same thing. Dynamics. Hit recalculate just to make sure it takes into account the new mask. And then hit run sim. Okay. Not really doing what I wanted. So what I might do is invert that. I might grab a, where is it? Where's the cloth move brush? There we go. There we go. That's what I wanted. So we're going to soften off the mask as well. So that when I use this brush, cloth move, I'm going to do something like that. And we'll step back to our, and now that I've got those kind of in place, I can now use them as a guide for the rest of how I want to place the fur. Now I'm just using kind of a standard approach for doing any kind of fur when you're sculpting it, is just to use nice large volumes of those main shapes. Thankfully, something like a yak already has those. It's quite, you know, their fur seems to be quite coarse. So it's given us a lot of leeway. And then, and I do have a brush that I might use later to add a bit more detail to it if we have time. But I'm quite happy doing it this way as well. Try not to look down the business end of a yak for too long. The dynamics didn't really work the way I wanted them to, but I don't want to labor the point today. We are trying, well, we are, I say trying, we are going to finish the A to Z this week. And then I'll be taking another break from streaming briefly, hopefully, and hopefully, hopefully not for too long. However, I think the head needs to be made bigger, right? So let's get the legs sorted. So we're going to turn them into an adaptive skin. So we'll do make adaptive skin and append in the legs. That's the wrong one. Append in the legs. Delete the Z-spheres. Don't need them anymore. I'm going to do the same with the horns. Adaptive skin. Turn off Dynamesh. And let's put that density down to 1. Make adaptive skin. And append that in. So now that we've got actual geometry, we can do a little bit more sculpting work. So I'm just going to add a couple of subdivisions, go into deformation, and just do polish. Let's lower that actually a little bit. There we go. So now that we have that, we need to make the head. Should we do a little bit? Yeah, let's do a little bit with the legs here. Subdivide them, and we're going to. Got symmetry on? Yes, I do. So we're just going to smooth those out to thin them back, and then we'll also inflate them at the base where they're going into the ground. And I think what we need to do with these front ones is maybe just bring them in a bit. They look a little bit too far apart. So we will move those in. Zbrush. Why are you being so difficult? There we go. But yeah, let's get the head looking a little bit bigger. So we're going to save our file. And then we'll go to T-pose mesh. And I can just grab reset that brush, I think. There we go. Do a math lasso over the head here and the horns. And obviously we're keeping those eyes in there as well. And now I can adjust the head to the size I need. I kind of like that actually. T-pose subtee, just a little bit for the scale. Let's do something with the eyes. And then we need to work on the face a bit. Hey, Sage of Anim 36. Thank you very much for the follow. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Right, let's see here. What do we have? Yeah, we could do a little bit of this. Quite like the idea of giving it a bit of a an eyelid, actually. So I think what I'll do is I'll grab my. I'm going to try the eyelid out. So today is a little bit more experimental than normal because we're not just trying to create something super realistic. We're just having a bit of fun. We've got a yak to make, so we'll see how far we can get. I'm going to take this and maybe give him a yellow eye. Okay, that works quite well. So I'm going to fill that with yellow, and then we'll do a drag rectangle with a nice clean alpha. Yeah, that's quite cool. I like that. And I'll maybe take the yellow and darken it down. Maybe I'll make it a bit more orangey and just do something like that. All right. So I've decided that he's going to be eating grass. Move that back a bit. I'm going to smooth these back. Don't think I like them. They're okay for a small indication of to where things need to go, but I think we'll try and find a different way of pulling those elements down. That's not what I wanted. Grab the move brush again. Where is it? There we go. Sorry, folks, not the most talkative stream today. We're focusing a little bit too much more on getting this to a point where we can start detailing it, I suppose. But as always, if you have any kind of queries or questions, feel free to ask in the chat. And yeah, and we will do what we can to answer. So I'm just looking again at proportions and things like this. I quite like it. I think he's working quite well. Probably maybe the body needs to be bigger. So I'm going to save and I'm going to play around with that again. So I'm going to have a little look and see how we do. So we're not doing too bad. We're about an hour in. So and we'll do T-pose. No, wrong one. T-pose mesh. There we go. And we'll just grab the body. Actually, can we do? Yes, we can. We can do this. And now I can just play around with overall size. That's a bit better, actually. So I'm also going to just use this opportunity to tweak shape a bit. Ah, okay. Didn't have symmetry on. Always forget about that with T-pose mesh. It has a tendency to just turn off your symmetry. So we do that. Go to the top view and there we go. Although the eyes appear to have changed, let's just have a quick. Oh no, that's fine. Okay, T-pose sub T. Bring everything back. And we're going to have to turn on some. Ah, weird. What happened to the. Hold on 2 seconds, folks. Oh no, I was right. That's okay. I just need to go in and add some more geometry under the eyes. So we'll do that now. Just using Sculptures Pro to support a lot of the shapes that I've already put in. I just want to refine the overall shape, but only add the specific geometry in this area. It's one of the best use cases for Sculptures Pro. And again, use it similar to the way that you would use Dynamesh. Think of it as a block out tool. You're not refining the shape too much. You're just adding in geometry to get those primary forms in without having to worry too much about topology at this stage. See, this is some of the thing that we don't really do a lot of, or I don't do often on these streams, is this is just me kind of sketching and coming up with something really on a whim. I know I'm trying to create a yak, but I'm just taking a lot of artistic license and just gonna sculpting away. I haven't decided if I want to put a ring through his nose. I don't think I'm going to, because he'll look too bull-like if I do that. So and the main reason that I don't want to be using Sculptris Pro on the large chunks at the back for the fur is simply just to give me more control over those shapes. It's going to only be lumpy where it is I want it to be lumpy. Okay. Slowly building up the forms for the fur, thinking about the directionality of how the fur is going to land, and I'm using the reference for that as well. So rather than building up muscle form, etc., that you would maybe if you're doing something more realistic or more anatomically correct, we're thinking about the fur shape here. Everything you sculpt, you're going to be able to, in some way, break it down into a manageable form to make your life easier. Okay. You just got to sometimes take a little bit more time to think about it. And that's what I would do. Spend a lot of time looking at your concept, if you have one, or if you're kind of creating something like this or from a photograph, look at your subject, observe the subject, and analyze it. Okay. It'll help a lot when it comes to sculpting. I'm just going to take the move brush here and just. Hey, Manic, how are you doing? Good to have you here. I'm going to take those eyes now and Dynamesh them together. I don't want to lose any of the shape I've got here, so I'm going to do a picker, grab that over, and try it there, see what that does. Made it way too dense. I'm late way too often. First missed the VC gathering on Discord, and now I'm late here too. That's all right, but Manic, don't worry about that. These things happen. We have all but lives. Okay, now that might be a bit too, maybe not. I'm going to take this now and do a deformation, polish, just smooth it off a bit. And then I'll do a manual smooth over some areas. And then we can do our next stage of blocking out. So again, we're just going to repeat what we've done, but now we've got a little bit more resolution to work with. So we can be a bit more controlled about what it is we're creating. And we're going to move the feet in again, I think. So and rush to PC. As I was turning it on, I get a stream notification and saw everyone leave. Yes, it's been quite the stacked week for streaming, actually. So I have a feeling, just because of the nature of this one, folks, we might go over our usual time. If I can get Zbrush to do what it's told. There we go. We might not. We'll just have to wait and see. And let's take the horns now. And actually, I think I'm just going to delete the top level there. And I'm going to start thickening those up. We'll take deformation here and just keep polishing it. Come back in, and again with the refinement. And I'm deliberately just keeping it at a very basic alpha here, because remember, we can switch up the alpha if we want to start adding in the rest of our fur, which actually we're kind of getting close to doing, I'm not going to lie. Because I don't want this to be an overly detailed character. I want this to be a bit more. Originally, derpy was the word I went with, but we've just kind of went with it, and it's become quite just naturally stylized. What's this? Then the little one tried to grab the electric mosquito swatter racket, accidentally startled her. So I had to take her for a walk. Ah, parenting. I understand that. I understand having to kind of. Well, that's got to be the priority, right? It's got to be the focus. So I'm going to take. I think we're going to use the snake hook here. I was originally going to use one of the brushes I have and try and blend them in, but I think we'll just do it manually today. Potentially. Let's see. I'm going to grab Alpha 8 and then use snake hook to pull down some of these shapes. Very gently. Okay. That just gives me those shapes that I need. Jump back over to the my clay tubes brush, and then wherever those spikes appear, I can work back to create the larger forms of the fur. And then we can break the symmetry a bit later. Scales brush, that snake hook that pulls out scales type small cones. It could be awesome to use for the yak fur. Yeah, snake hook is incredibly useful if you kind of tweak it a little bit, depending on the shape you do. So, I mean, all I did there was essentially change the alpha, but if you really dive into the settings, you can get some very cool effects. It's in Lightbox. Okay, we will give it a look. Give me a second. I'm going to finish up the top here. Okay, let's take a look at this brush. I think I overdid that. So we're just going to step back to there. Okay, Lightbox. So for this, we're going to go into brushes and we're going to look for some of the snake hook brushes here. So let me see. It's probably going to either be in scales here or it's going to be in move. Let's see. Not that one. Probably in the move options. Let's see. Nope. Manic, if you know where it roughly is, that'd be good. Unless I'm just not seeing the snake hook options here. Could be in Misc, I suppose. Nope. Let me have a look. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Manic. Appreciate that. Because I don't want to keep kind of fumbling away in there. But, oh, swap back to my clay build-up here. And all I'm doing here, by the way, in regards to how I'm using the brush, and that can take you much further than just the brush itself. So I'm being careful to overlap each stroke to create the idea of multiple layers without really having to go into a lot of detail with it. So it creates a nice sense of form, particularly for a quick study. Okay. Then obviously you can go in with things like dam standard and you can start to maybe outline some of the shapes that you're using. Like so. And then maybe take it up here as well and just kind of bring a few of those down. And again, we're not obviously going to leave these like that. We're going to work into them a bit more, but this gives you another option. It's called Scales A Brush. Okay, we'll have a look at that in a second. Now I'm just going to take the build up brush and start working over where I've sketched out those lines. And you can start to see some of that variation. Some of it might disappear, that's okay. We don't want the forms to be really standoutish. We want them to be quite subtle. Okay, now that we know what the name of the brush is, we're going to go and check that again. I think I was in the right folder with the scales, but I think I picked the wrong one. So we'll give that a little look in a second. Okay, we'll do a quick save. Need to check on the time here. We're an hour and 15 in, folks. So let's see what else we can do. So let's look at the scales, and it's the Scales A brush. So interesting. We don't have a Scales A. Great. Let's see. Try that again. Make sure I'm not Scales B. Nope. What's this one do? Oh, okay. That's similar. So this might give us a rough idea of what this is doing. So get the intensity down here. What it's allowing me to do is pull out little sections of fur with a bit of lazy mouse involved and a bit of a dot stroke. So you can see that as I draw with it, or I sculpt with it, creating that kind of shape. But I don't know if that's exactly the look that the Scales A brush is going to do with the guy that made the Wolverine sculpt sketch. There's a chance it could be a customized version of one of these brushes. It might not be actually in here. I'm not sure. So anyway, we're not going to focus on that too much. I'm going to now jump back in and start refining things a little bit more. So I'm going to grab the move brush, and not the cloth move. No, 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 no. We want standard move. Could it be? I checked in there, Manic. It's not in there. It might be in the move. Maybe it's Scales A and move, but it's not in the Scales brush. So there's a chance that it's probably a custom version or variant. It's not in the no, it's not in the move. So, so all I'm going to do now is start to pull out some of these other elements, just drag them out ever so slightly and soften them off. Let's focus now on the head a bit more. No, not at all, Manic. Not at all. It's fine. As I said, there's so many brushes in. I've said before, there's so many brushes in the kind of repository on ZBrush that sometimes it does pay to just go in there, check, see what else there is. Never know what you might find. So now that we've got this smoothed out and re-dynameshed, we can go through and start to refine the shape of the eyes and the face in general. Come on, Zbrush. Don't be difficult today. Yeah, it's just going to be difficult. Doesn't want me to, not giving me a very clean sculpt there, so. Another reason why you don't want to do details with Dynamesh. Again, the nature of the brush is that, or the not the brush, sorry, the topology is that it can sometimes it's not always going to give you a clean, sharp edge. So okay, folks. Just hide the base for the time being. Got a little bit of cleanup to do. I love how annoyed and fed up the facial expression of the yak has. Thank you. This is how I feel about the state of the industry at the moment. Okay. Let's now bolster the nose a little bit more. And start to get a little bit more of the shape of the nostrils. Want to fix the muzzle a little bit, just kind of add a bit more volume to it, smooth it off. There was a bit more to somewhere to pop the horns. Don't want to really do much to the horns, actually. Quite like the idea of just keeping them quite nice and simple. Same to go with the legs. I'm going to take the legs and do a Dynamesh. We're going to lower that, I think. There we go. That's better. So we will make ourselves nice smooth horns. But I still really need to smooth these out, get them a bit sharper looking. Get that. All right, folks. So now let's create a little blade of grass. So to do that, we're going to append a sphere, turn it into a Q-sphere. This is definitely something I should really make a macro for, and I think there actually already is one, but you never know who's watching, folks. You guys it might be useful to get that reminder of how to do these things. Yep, that's fine. And stretch that out. Put it in a bit. There we go. We'll just subdivide that a couple of times and maybe increase the thickness. How we doing? Guz Suarez, thank you very much for the follow. Much appreciated. So, blade of grass, nothing fancy, it doesn't need to be. Hit the standard brush and Maybe need to subdivide that a couple more times. There we go. Wrong way. That's what I wanted. And we'll just now set that down a little bit lower. Delete the hires and then smooth again. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to step back a few more. And I think I want to keep that a little bit more stylized. So we're going to scale this down and going to add a bit more of a bend to it by using the anchors brush. So I'm just going to click and then click again. And then what that's going to allow me to do is bend it like so. And then jump back to the move brush and then just put this into place. But subdivision, so we'll delete the lower. What's this? Warrior Maddie 420. Hi, are you from Firestorm Studio? Because Paige is not working in the studio. She only stream. Not 100% sure what you mean there. Paige is one of our streamers. I don't work. I just live stream as well at Firestorm. So if you are interested in kind of learning a little bit more about Firestorm Studios, then I would really recommend you check out the Discord. That's always going to be your best bet for information. Then you can reach out to people there. Okay. I'm going to duplicate this. Actually, I'm going to mirror it. And then let's see what that looks like. Let's do an auto groups. Yeah, if it's anything studio related, your best bet is to reach out on the Discord, okay? Or you can reach out through the official Instagram for Firestorm Studios, okay? We've got lots of different artists, some of whom do mentorships, some do streaming, some do only one of each. Some people do everything. So it's as I said, your best bet. Reach out that way. Okay. I will just can see on Discord. Can I also, if you are interested in that, again, you'll need to reach out to someone through the Discord or through Instagram. Okay. If you send a direct message about that, then you should get an answer. All right. If you're interested in live streaming. There we go. Firestorm Studios just reached out to you there. Unfortunately, we are not expanding the team at the moment. So I'm just going to add a little bit of extra oomph here to the environment, the little landscape I've given our yak. And I think as well, what I'll do, just to kind of really hit this home, is I am going to, let's see, I swear that there was an append sphere. Anyway, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. So I'll just create a sphere. I want to create some. This is actually where we might be able to use the dynamics. So I'm going to go and create myself a Q sphere and scale it up. I'm going to subdivide this a couple of times, and then I'm going to delete the lower resolutions. Pages streamer meant to turn available for commission freelance role bookings through our website. There we go. Your sculpting is also awesome. How many years you practice sculpting? I have been sculpting in Zbrush. I started learning Zbrush in 2008, 2009. Prior to that, I was strictly working in Maya and Modo and things like that. So yeah, I've been working in the industry for almost 20 years. So most of that as an asset person, as a modeler, a texture artist, that type of thing. But I consider myself a generalist as well that specializes in assets. So because I've been doing it so long that I kind of have many strings to my bow. 420 years. Wow. Attacked on a Thursday afternoon. Shocking. Shocking. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to save, because we all know what happens when we try something different in ZBrush. It's like, hey, you're trying something new, and I know you didn't save. Crash. So I want to add a little clump of snow on our little yak. So what we'll do, I'm going to go to Dynamics. I'm going to turn off On Masked, leave Gravity on, Collision Volume, recalculate, and then hit Run Sim. And what that's going to do is it's going to drop that object onto the other one. But I'm going to maybe change some of the settings. I'm going to put the firmness up to 2, change the gravity strength from 10 to maybe like 7 or so. And then try again. So recalculate and collision. Okay, so now obviously it's slipped off there, but that's all right. We can probably mess with that. So I'm going to undo that. There we go. Try again. Dynamics. There we go. That's kind of cool. So yeah, quite like that. That's cool. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to inflate it. So I'm going to go to deformation. If I can find it. Deformation, inflate. Maybe do a bit of inflate balloon as well. And then we'll dynamesh. Ooh, maybe not as high as that though. Or that. Let's see. There we go. And then do a little bit of custom inflation for the snow. And then once it's in place, I'm going to do a little bit more dynamics to it. So, but this time I'm going to, let me see, let's up the firmness and just hit Run Sim. Whoa, too much. So undo that. And let's take that gravity strength down. A bit much still. Dynamics, let's do a quick recalculation, see if that fixes it. What's this? I'm also trying to learn sculpting at the moment, only practicing. Why do I feel like Stan is on Firestorm account? I can only do poly modeling easily. Then it would have, nope, then it would have been 6 to 7 years. Very good. If you're only practicing, then that's the best place to start. Best place to start. Okay. So you just take your time with it. Okay. You don't need to, there's no need to Oh, okay, that was a bit much with the gravity, so we'll just undo that. Practicing is the main thing you can do, and play around with software. Experiment with it. Don't be don't be too harsh on yourself. Just keep practicing, and you will eventually get better at it. Don't know if I'm liking this. So what I think I'll do instead is I'm going to go into Move, and I'm going to choose Move Cloth, and then push that down. It should. I grab this. Oh, it's transpose cloth I want, not there it is. Transpose cloth. I can push that down and it'll push against the object. And then I can go in with my normal move and just add a bit more to that. There we go. Oh, I hate it when Zbrush does this. So we're going to try doing a Z-remesh here. I think I might have pushed it a little bit too far for the geo. So yeah, that's broken. Okay, I'm going to delete that. And we'll add it later if we have time. So I'm glad I'm getting that itch back again. I just don't want to risk diving back in too early. I think that's fair. Manic, that's fair. Right, we're going to do a quick bit of painting. Where are we at? Okay, we're 1 hour and 36. And I want to be able to answer some questions. So let's do a pose. Actually, first of all, we need to Z-remesh this guy. So we're going to do a duplicate of our body, and then we're going to do a quick Z-remesh. There we go. I know Blender, Maya, Substance Painter, Photoshop, T-Shot, and video editing software. How many software do you use? Let me think. My general go-tos are Maya and Zbrush, and Photoshop. Those are the three I will probably use every single day without fail. I do, however, also have a few supplementary pieces of software that I use, one called Wrap 3D. And I also use something called TopoGun for retopology. And I also use Substance Painter as well. I'm also relearning how to use the Foundry Mari for doing kind of higher resolution texture stuff. So a fair amount of pieces of software. And I kind of just learn things as I need it as well. I remember a job I did recently. One of our artists, who was a match move artist, and he became unwell, and we had no one else on the team to do match moving. So I kind of had to learn Synthesize, which is a match moving software, in about half of a day. Learning to run before I could walk. So it was kind of like one of those, I need to learn this now for a specific thing, which was fun, but I wouldn't want to do it again. But yeah, that's Z-sphere retopology for the win. No other retopo tools needed. No, Manic. No. To be fair, it is a great system. And it's a little bit, Z-sphere retopology is a bit weird until you once you get the hang of it. It's typical of most ZBrush features. Once you get the hang of it, it's fine. Right, let me just do a quick projection here. So we're going to take the retopologized version and we will do a projection. Turn off color, change the mean down to 12 and turn the blur off and hit project all. There we go. So now we have our clean mesh with all of our details. So we can turn everything back on. And I can probably just start thinking about texturing. But I want to do a quick pose on this guy first. So we're going to save it. And then we're going to go back into T-pose mesh. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't say remesh. I'm still doing manual retopo, just with the Z-sphere retopology tool. I don't know retop. You learn things in stages, okay? So I saw your question asking about what is sculpting pipeline. The thing is, there isn't. I don't think there is something that you can break it down to something as simple as just a modeling pipeline or texturing pipeline. You can in some degrees, but to me, it's more important to learn the pipeline of a 3D production. Now, that pipeline is going to vary depending on if you're in animation, if you're in games or VFX, or if you're in ArcViz or visualization, previs, etc. There's lots of variations of a pipeline. What you want to learn is where sculpting fits into a pipeline. That's what you should focus on, right? So for example, sculpting can be used to create a character. It can be used to augment an already existing character that's been made with a traditional polygon modeling workflow. And it can also be used for texturing. This is something that you can kind of blur the lines with. Because technically, right, in many ways, sculpting details on a character is texturing. Yes, you're doing it onto the geometry, but what you are outputting in order for it to be rendered is a texture map. So it's a form of texturing as well. And that's why I tend to say, like, learn where a sculpting program is going to fit into a pipeline, as opposed to going, right, I just want to do sculpting. Because if you focus yourself just on sculpting, right, you're going to limit yourself. Okay, you're going to limit what you can learn, because every part of a pipeline you can learn something from and inject it into your own workflows. You said you polymodel. It's basically making the sculpt into a. You said polymodeling, basically making the sculpt into a polymodel. Yeah, retopology is essentially taking a high resolution mesh that has no a topological format, doesn't have a consistent topology, or what you would call an animation topology more colloquially, and then taking that and then retopologizing or modeling around the model with polygons to create a clean, topologically sound mesh. In my mesh, what is pipeline first? Modeling, then UVs, then texturing, then rigging, then animation, then lighting, then rendering, and video editing and coloring. I know only this much. To be honest, yes, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. That is essentially how it works. You would start with your model. If you want to if you want to really bake it down into its basics, you model, you UV map, you texture, you apply your materials, then you apply your rig, you do your animation, you do your lighting, you do your rendering, then you do your effects. Sometimes though, the last few will swap around, but in most productions, they're all happening side by side. So modeling, obviously, you're going to start modeling something, you're going to do a quick pass of UVs, etc. And then you can hand it over to, and then when you create that basic block out of a model, you're going to pass that on to other departments. So texturing are going to pick it up. Rigging might pick it up, right? And then they're going to go, right, well, we've made a basic version of our part of the pipeline. So we've made a basic rig and we've made a basic texture. Then that can be passed on to animation and lighting and materials, that type of thing. Okay, so this is why I'm saying learn about the whole pipeline and how everything works together, and then specialize in your area and find out what area you're interested in most fits in to a pipeline. Okay. So I am going to now take this guy's head. I don't think we're going to do much in the way of, oh, it's going to crash. ZBrush is going to crash. There we go. Interesting. What has gone on there? Oh, it's because I'm using the wrong transpose. That's why. Oops. Standard transpose, please. There we go. And what I might as well do here is grab the move brush and just maybe adjust a little bit of the shoulder here. A bit of asymmetry. But I'm not perfect at anything. No one is perfect at anything. Okay? Do not let the internet or social media or influencers of any kind, even the 3D ones that you might look up to, don't let them think that they are perfect at anything, because none of them are. And I know that might be a hot take, but I will die on that hill. Is the tail of that yak hidden in fur? It is. It's right here. It's this little nubbin at the back. Okay. Don't strive for perfection. Okay. It's you will lose a lot of time to that. Okay. And the most important thing you can do is do your best. Do your best. Work as hard as you can to get what it is that you want. And this is the thing. There's a really great saying about, talent is pursued interest. What you are willing to learn, you can do. So if you want to learn rigging, you'll do rigging. If you want to learn how to sculpt, then you do sculpting. And you just practice it and you put time into it, and eventually you will become good at it. Oh, Manic, that's a great idea. Damn you. Damn you, Manic. No, seriously, that's a great idea, man. Thank you. God damn it. The problem is that their tails are really bushy. So now I'm going to have to do more work. God damn. All right, that's fine. We have time. We're still under 2 hours. We've got time. So we're going to add a tail, Manic. By the way, folks, don't worry. Manic and I are friends. Okay, we're just joking around with each other. Okay, so for anyone worried that I'm being serious, I'm not. No, the tails on these guys are really furry. So we are just going to be we're going to cheat this really quite a bit. So the thing is, I don't know if we're going to see the tail. I mean, again, it would be quite nice to have the tail kind of just like, swinging out here. I'm sorry for adding more work. I know, shocking. How dare you improve this? Okay, so let's do, how do I want to do this? Yeah, okay. I'm going to take this section here, mask it out, and then just invert and move that down. Now, yeah, their tails are actually kind of thicker at the bottom. So let's do a couple of edge loops, like so. And get our symmetry on, do that. And we'll just subdivide it a couple of times. I know it looks really dodgy, but at the moment, not safe for work. Not safe for work. So I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to use the Alpha 62, quite a large brush, to add in the detail quickly. Tails are also pretty thick, actually. There we go. But then again, they do live in very cold climates. So now I'm going to take the, I'm going to use the anchors brush again. Just pop in a couple of shapes. Let's maybe pull that back a bit. Then I will clear off the anchors, do a new one, just here and there. White Fox, hi, I mean, beautiful work. I'll watch the full video later. Thanks very much, White Fox. Appreciate it. Very kind of you to say. Very kind of you to say. So now that I've got the pose roughly in place with the tail, now I can reset the current brush and sculpt in some of the same kind of effect that we've done before already on the body. Gotta be honest, I wasn't sure if this was going to work, folks. I really didn't know if this was going to work today or not, but I am quite, I'm genuinely surprised that it's worked fairly well. Um, the fur underneath could probably be better, but like I said, don't strive for perfection. There is something I'm just going to fix, though. I'm just going to fix this area where the geometry is just um, sticking through itself. There we go. That's better. I'm also I've kind of based this on my cat. I know that sounds weird, but my cat does look like a yak. Um, it's not her fault. It's just, that's just what she looks like. Um, no, don't like those. Running them back. What's this? If sculpting required, where you are good in polymodeling. Correct. You cannot animate. Well, that's actually not fair. You could animate with without retopple, but it wouldn't work very well. This is the thing. I mean, there is so many things that have to be done for the sake of efficiency in production and for optimization so that things work. So for the eyes, we're now going to, you know what? We're actually going to fill the eyes with yellow again. And we're going to subdivide them a couple of times, switch over to the color black. And in the paint tool, we will going to have them stand like this. So I want to soften that a bit. There we go. What brush did you use for the fur? Oh, that's just all hand sculpted. We just hand sculpted the fur. About the ears. What's this? Whoa, sorry guys, I'm going to have to catch up with that in a second. That's a lot. Bear with me. Because I had the same expression when I was eating my breakfast. But for minor detailing, sculpting is awesome and fast. What brush to use for fur? That's why I like Blender. I can polymodel and then sculpt mode. I can do minor detailing. Yep, same thing. And you can do that in lots of different software anyway. So it's a useful thing to have. All right, so I think we now have to do a paint job on this. So we are going to do a bit of housekeeping first. Let's do I cannot believe that I forgot the ears. What a terrible human being I am. This poor guy with no ears. We'll do a quick save. Why is it going there? Oh well. Yak and Yak 7. How are we doing for time? Okay, we're just coming up on 2 hours, folks. So we should be able to finish up fairly quickly. We're just going to do our housekeeping as always. We'll call this ears and body. We've got the eyes. And we have the legs. And we've got the horns. And the reason that I decided to go with this is I was having a conversation with Heather, actually, our founder, about how sometimes you can just create a little sphere with a few like other shapes and you can create a very evocative character, a very interesting, aesthetically pleasing character. So, and that's why I thought, well, with this, let's just see how it goes. I don't really design characters very often, so this was a little bit out of my wheelhouse. But yeah, the legs are hilarious. That's what the legs look like. Okay, let's get painting after we save again for a second, for our 8th time. What are we saying, folks? What's the... yes, you're not imagining it. Blender has obviously the ability to sculpt, which is great. But the thing you have to remember with Blender is it's going to be sculpting on a subdivision or a subdivided mesh, okay? Similar to this one here, okay? And it uses traditional polygons because it's a traditional 3D package, all right? ZBrush is not a traditional package. It uses something called pixels, okay, which is essentially something that ZBrush has essentially coined, and it's voxels that can contain, I believe, color information, right? So it's a 2.5D package, and because of the technology it uses to sculpt, that's why ZBrush can kick around 50, 60 million polygons with ease, and that you can sculpt on things far quicker and gives you that immediate feedback. Any other software that uses standard polygons and sculpting on them, that is always going to feel a bit more sluggish. So things like Blender or Maya, they use that system. Even something like Mudbox. Mudbox uses the same system as well, but it's a little bit better optimized. So it's you can get a lot of really great feedback in that software as well. Then you have things like 3D Coat. Now, 3D Coat, if I'm wrong, someone please correct me if I am, I think uses voxels as well. And I think that's why it's really quick to work with as well. And then you have software which sadly no longer exists. There's a software called Modo, which originally was from a company called Luxology, and was then bought by the Foundry and then discontinued, unfortunately. It had a really cool system for sculpting where you were similar to Substance Painter, actually. It worked in a similar way to Substance Painter, where you were using, when you were in sculpting mode, you were actually just sculpting a normal map. So you got to see all this great detail, but it was just generating a normal map in real time for you in the viewport. It was fantastic. And to this day, I will say now, Modo is the best modeler, bar none. And I will die on that hill. Modo is the best modern modeling package. And in fact, it's a shame that it's gone now because it had such a great subdivision modeling toolset, similar to the way that XSI was before it was discontinued by Autodesk. And it's really sad that the two best modeling packages for polygon modeling, subdivision modeling are no longer available commercially. So, very sad. Sometimes the best tool is not the tool that everyone is using. So, however, in the case of ZBrush for sculpting, it kind of is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to finish off the fur by going into one of my brushes. Sorry, I'm going to go into my project here. I'm going to grab this creature brush that I have from Dragon Lisco. Nice, was not knowing that. Well, this is the thing. I've been doing this a long time, so I've used a lot of software over the years. Yeah. Go on, somebody say it. I won't be mad. You're old. So I can use this brush set here by the fantastic Dragon Lisco to augment what I've done if I wanted to. Not going to do anything major, just a few random sections of fur. And then we can change that one up for some of the longer parts. but I don't like it. But I do quite like the one on the top. I like the one on the top, so I'm going to keep that. But I'll maybe just do a little bit more of a gentle approach to it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now on to the painting. Now on to the painting. So the grass is just going to be green. So I'll just do fill object with the grass. And then I'm going to take a darker green and just add a bit of a gradient. For the horns, they're going to be kind of off white yellowy bone color. So we'll just fill that there. The legs are also, they appear to be kind of like a kind of more reddish brown. I'll do that for the legs. We're going to make this snow colored, obviously. And then the body, again, it's going to be a mix of colors, but mostly a kind of dark black brown color. So we'll just fill that object. And there we go. So now I can take my paintbrush, and if we change the stroke to color spray, we take the alpha and change that to, let's do alpha 7, good old. Well, actually, you know what? Let's not. Let's do alpha 1. So we get a bit more of a variation. But I'm going to turn my color down to 0. And there we go. Oh, forgot the tail and the ears. Oops. So let's do the tail, and we'll do the ears as well. There we go. So I think for the face, we will, first of all, take our dot stroke so I get a softer feel to it. And I think we're going to go with a lighter tone for the face. I like using a softer kind of brush for this kind of stuff, because like an airbrush, depending on how you hit it, if it was a real life model, you don't always pick up every part of it. So you get some nice happy accidents. And let's just do something around the eyes as well. Actually, I don't know if I think I'm going to leave the eyes dark, actually. I will, however, change the color of the inside of the ear. So this is going to be very similar to the way that we did the wolf. We're not going for really complicated colors here. And then, actually, that's something we did forget on the body. I need to go back to my brush here, my fur brush. I'm going to lower the RGB intensity here, and I'm going to do this. There we go. So when you're actually using any kind of brush in ZBrush, you are able to apply color at the same time. And these Dragon Lisco brushes are absolutely fantastic. I cannot recommend them enough. And I've just realized that the ears, I didn't have back face mask on, so we're going to have to do that again. We're going to have to just fill in the back of the ear. And See how that looks. There we go. I'm going to take the brown color here from the leg and just add a bit more orange to it. I'm going to use that for some of the coloring. Hey, Nico, 28885. Thank you very much for the follow. We're just going to use this at the bottom of the fur. Do the same for the tail. Oh no, wait, I need to. There we go. Is there a color smart mask like Substance Painter? No. ZBrush is very specifically a one layer painting system. You can use layers in ZBrush, but generally it messes up the painting. So with ZBrush, you are really just painting directly on the model. You can use masks to mask out certain areas, but honestly, I don't use them that often. I'd be far more inclined to just paint it like I am right now. And just build it up in layers. And if I make a mistake, I just erase it. Because generally when I'm doing work in ZBrush, I'm not making a final texture. I will load it up. If we have time at the end, I can load up a model that I did fully in ZBrush poly painting, just using masks and photo reference. So this time I'm going to change to alpha 62 just to help break up the line a bit more. There we go. So yeah, so ZBrush doesn't really do that type of stuff, but it's the thing. If you want to do that kind of thing, just go to Substance Painter. Really, you know, use each tool to its strengths, folks. All right. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of extra, something slightly warmer color on the nose here and just start to fill in some of these shapes a bit, just to kind of create a little bit more visual interest on his face. Then I'll take the same color again, lower that RGB intensity, and then I'm just going to paint over the whole lot just to blend it together. I'm going very, very light as I sculpt over the top of this. And if you do any overspill, you can just take the black color and fill that back in. We'll take the slightly darker approach for the nostrils, and there we go. That is an exhausted looking yak. Same, matey, same. So I'll maybe take a light blue here. The snow. Turn on alpha 7 and our spray stroke, and just work over the top of that with a few other colors. Just again, breaking up the color. Again, it's super simple, folks. This is the thing. Again, we're not going for a finished creature here or a finished piece of work. A sketch, it's a study, you know. What I might do as well is maybe just add in a little bit of potentially a tiny bit of green and a little bit of this brown. I might even change that with a shader when I get it into Marmoset, but I might not. There we go. So, and for some reason my lighting is not working in Zbrush. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can find this. Hold on, folks, because I really should have this. Let me see here. Sorry, folks, bear with me. I just need to find the link because I think I. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I think it's in the. No, it's not. So, folks, oh, wait a minute. Looking very stylized. I like that. Am I right? Can you explain what is a stylized model looking like? What a stylized model look like? That is a bit subjective, and it depends on your depends on your certain point of view as well. It's stylized is it's a hard one to explain, really, because stylized can mean something like arcane. Stylized can mean something like The Simpsons. It can mean something like Disney. If something is different from real life, if it's not photoreal, then it's stylized in a certain way. Instead, it's a way to look at it in a way of how much is it stylized? You know, is it really abstract? That's hyper stylized, you know, that type of thing. Right, I cannot find what I'm looking for here, folks. I don't think it's too far back. So I'm going to ignore that for the time being, and I'm just going to make a new version. So I'm going to go into my lights here. I'm going to turn on this secondary light. I'm going to turn off this one. And I'm going to change the color to blue. And then I'm going to move this light around and tap on it so it goes behind the object, increase the intensity, and then turn on my new light. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a bit of a rim light to work with. Okay, but I think I'm going to change the blue. I'm not a huge fan of it. So there we go. That's better. Okay. It's looking great. Thank you. No problem, Maddie. What did the mechanic have fiber mesh for rendered in Marmoset? Yes, it did. It did. The fiber mesh was just geometry anyway. You know, like for example, we could take this here and say, you know what, I want to add a bit of fiber mesh to it. We can do that. If I save it first in case it crashes. How are we doing? Okay, we're 2 minutes. Sorry, not 2 minutes. We're 2 hours and 20 minutes in. So we're almost finished. I'm just going to quickly show this fiber mesh thing. So if I wanted to, I could take the body here. Which bits would we want? we would probably want to mask out these and that bit there. So that's the area that's masked. So now, if I go into fiber mesh preview, we get something that looks like that. And I can go into Lightbox fibers, and I can go through this and say, right, well, actually, I want to pick something out from here. So let's say, what's this one? Fibers 62. That's not great. I can just go through each of these until I find something that I kind of like, something that works for me. And I can use that as a base for what it is I'm doing. So I tend to, now obviously we've got a scale issue going on here. So try to visualize it if you can, as I run through each of these. Okay, let's just take this one. So this is a standard grass. And then I can go into modifiers and basically bring the length profile down to that. Right, so I can do that. I can go into the texture and turn it off. Change the base of the color, so make it black, and then do the same with that. And then the next thing I can do here is I can actually increase the amount of fibers to this, but then I can change the size. So if I go to, if I can find it, scale, here we go. So if I increase the scale of the root, like so, can put it up really high. We zoom in here, you can see it starting to get a little bit larger. Do the same with the tip. There we go. And there is a width profile as well, so you can play around with that. Like so. And then I can say, right, well, okay, accept. And I'm just going to say no to that. Now I have fiber mesh, which I can now take into any software I want and render it. Now, the cool thing about this is that if I wanted to, I can take, if I hide everything, I can project the color of my character body straight onto this fiber mesh. I'm pretty sure, because I think they come with UVs. No, they don't. All right, okay. Well, in that case, I'm just going to do, I'll do PUV tiles. There we go. And now if I go into subtool, oops, I will go down to projection, turn off geometry and blur, and just make sure that color is left on and hit project all. And all being well, it should project that color on. For some reason though, it's went blue and I don't know why. Let me see here. Maybe it's the light that's messing with it. There we go. And there we go. So now we have the fiber mesh for our yak, but it's not how I wanted to do this creature. I wanted it to be more stylized. I didn't really, and I think that, obviously we haven't done a lot of work in this, but I prefer the look without the fiber mesh. Okay. All right. One thing I do want to actually just add to the body, just something that's bugging me. I'm gonna add a little bit of pink to the nose. And I should maybe do a little bit more work to the horns. There we go. Now, obviously, we can continue this. You can start to go in and refine the fur. You can make your own fur brushes and add clumps, etc. to it. Again, we could go into the Dragon Lisco brush here, and there's a whole bunch of other options that we could use here. we could go in and start adding different sections like this. But to be honest, if you were really wanting this kind of effect, you would manually do it. You would manually do larger chunks like that, and then go in with maybe a custom version of your alpha brushes. You can see that if I lower the intensity, I can actually start to create some very effective looking, finer, finer fur for the creature. Before we finish up, folks, does anybody want to name our yak? Keep it clean now. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming along. Just a quick little yak. You'll only get that if you know that yak is a British slang for talking. I actually realized I wanted to do this. There was something that was missing, and it was this. Zach the yak. There we go. Thanks, Manic. Just the way you have on the Yeti. Yes. What Yeti? I haven't done a Yeti. I could have done a Yeti, actually. We could have done a Yeti, but I think I am happy with my choice of creature. I think Zach the Yak has warmed everyone's hearts with his complete lack of giving a crap. Look at the disdain in that expression. He's disappointed in everyone. Okay, folks. Right. Well, that is us. We have finished off the letter Y. And we are now going into the final. We have got one more letter to do. That is the letter Z, and we will be doing that at 1 o'clock tomorrow UTC. Now, at the moment, I have an idea for what I'm doing, but up until last night, I was doing a yellow-bellied sea snake, so it might change between now and tomorrow. So I'm not, although I do need to kind of announce it, so I have to make a decision. So I'll have a bit of a think, but I have a feeling we'll probably stick with my initial idea. And it's not going to be a zebra. I'm just telling you all that now. It's not going to be a zebra. That would be just too on the nose. Oh, in jorts, there's a message that says Yeti. More contacts than message right before that. Oh, sorry. Just asked if it was covered in the series. I had so much fun back in the day making the girl for the game studio. I worked in the past. I've sculpted first rounds. Ah, okay. Got you. Okay. No, yes, the my Moonshine Bigfoot that I worked on, that's a mix of this approach, I think a custom brush by Publander. So yeah. But no, I like Zach. I think Zach the Yak is good. And I also promised I would showcase an example of polypaint in Zbrush. So I'm going to save Zach up here. And I will load in my chimp that I did a while back. Hairless chimp. So if I just load this in, and frame it up. So this here, and again, you can see here, this is all done in ZBrush. This is all poly paint, just using masking, mottling brushes, and photo reference. And if I load in the, let me just import the final render so you can see what the outcome was. And we'll do this and add that, and just let me fix the intensity and the opacity. Oh, the intensity is too much. There we go. So this shows you what you're able to do in ZBrush with just painting. One layer, no fancy masks, just painting. Okay. This is the thing, folks. Do not always rely on plugins, fancy tools, and all this kind of thing. Learn, right? Learn your fundamentals. Learn your fundamentals of form, anatomy, painting. Learn from traditional ways of painting, you know, and that goes to things like model making and traditional, you know, ways that used to make films and spraying and spray painting and airbrushing, you know, silicone and latex models. Look into this kind of stuff. All of it can be applied to our the digital world that we live in right now, and you'd be amazed at how much of all this kind of transfers over. But yeah, I just wanted to showcase, you know, in regards to poly painting, you can get a hell of a lot out of ZBrush. And all it'll do is mean that when you do pick up a really fancy tool that can make your life a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, then you're just going to be better at it from the get-go. Okay, you're going to be able to get better results. All right, so let me get rid of this. That monkey is awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. We'll jump back to Zach and get rid of that. Okay, folks. Okay. All right. Okay, that's us, folks. We are 2 hours and 30 minutes in. Thank you once again for coming along to this Firestorm Studios live stream. It's been a really amazing series that we've been working on here, and I think Zach has just added to that menagerie. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening, no matter where, wherever you are, the rest of your day, your morning, your evening, wherever it might be. And I will see you all again tomorrow at 1 o'clock UTC for the finale of our A to Z of Sculpting series. This has been really, really exciting to do with you today. Thank you all for taking the time to hang out with me, and I'll speak to you all next time. Bye for now, folks. Take care.